Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar with myself, Steve Gaskell, where I'm going to be sharing with you some ideas with regards to how we can obviously bounce back and relaunch our business as we I guess near the close of lockdown. We can all see that there is an ever increasing shift in terms of the level of lockdown that we are experiencing at the moment. But just before I go on, if you're listening to me live on Facebook at the moment, then please ask any questions, share where you are. Happy to engage as we progress that way. And for those of you that are on the Zoom webinar and call, just give us a quick show of hands. Firstly, you can see the on-air screen and you can hear me loud and clear in terms of the presentation that we're giving this afternoon. That's going to be pretty important. So yeah, brilliant. I can see a few hands going up. And interestingly, welcome back to some of you who, let's say 90 days ago with me and joined me when we started to look at actually putting a crisis plan in place and preparing for lockdown. And I don't know if you recall, but when we first started talking about this, we did actually suggest that it was going to be around about 90 days, about 3 months. And actually, this is week 13. This is 90 days into this COVID-19 lockdown. And the fact of the matter is now we're starting to see a shift in the lockdown. We're starting to see a shift in terms of relaxing some of the constraints that we've worked on. We've also seen quite a shift in terms of how we have, managed our businesses, where we have made pivots, where we have adapted our processes. And the interesting point now is really a focus on how do we now relaunch our business. So this afternoon, I want to challenge you to rethink, to reinvent, and to essentially relaunch your business. And I'm going to share the 9 must-dos to open your business. Just a little bit about me for those of you who are first to this one. My name's Steve Gaskell. I'm a retired Army veteran of 8 years ago. I'm a high performance coach today, author, speaker, and my passion this afternoon is to really help as many business owners as I possibly can to get themselves back into a place where we are really starting to develop and really grow our businesses in a way that is just going to have a massive impact, and really bouncing back at the back end of this challenging period that we've all been through. One of the things that I hope to facilitate this afternoon is to offer you some BFOs. Now, a BFO is kind of that moment where you think to yourself, wow, why didn't I think of that? It's essentially a blinding flash of the obvious. It's not a case of you've got all of the answers, but remember, as business owners, as leaders, as executives out there, as directors, you have a weight on your shoulders. You have a great deal of responsibility. And sometimes, we each of us find ourselves in a place where we don't necessarily see the wood for the trees. But this afternoon, I'm going to hopefully share with you 9 key areas that are going to have an impact where you can actually take a moment and think, actually, that's a bit of a BFO. Now, the only rules of the game when we talk about BFOs are simple. It's really, what is the BFO? Write it down, put a date to it, and make sure you absolutely bring it into the context of your business. Make sure you act upon the learning that you take from this afternoon's webinar to do something about it. It's about action and activity. I am going to share some ideas. I'm not going to really hold back in any way, shape or form. The fact of the matter is, though, if we have these ideas and notions and think that it's a great idea and then do nothing with it, then you're not going to get anywhere. Do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. The point of coming out of this right now is to actually start to think differently about how we relaunch our business. Now, I'm going to make an assumption that in our businesses, we are all of us looking for really positive results in terms of going forward, whatever they may be. There is a stark reality that I often come across lots of I guess, reasons as to why we haven't had the success that we wanted, to get to where we wanted to get to achieve and aspire to the heights that we wanted to achieve and aspire to. And COVID-19 has almost given us an excuse, to be able to blame something, and the reasons as to why your business is as it is at the moment. My challenge for you this afternoon is to really start thinking about taking full responsibility of the business in terms of where you are, accountability in terms of what it is that you need to do, and taking full ownership in terms of what it is that you're going to be doing next. And what is the next step that you need to take? What is the level of accountability in terms of being accountable for your clients, your customers, your partners, whoever it is that you do business with? What's really interesting when we start to look at it in this respect is that there's almost this utopia of being in a place where we are results driven, rather than this place where, and in fairness, I've seen a lot of this during this process where there is blame, there is excuse, there is denial of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And there's a reality here that it's not really anybody's fault. It's almost an act of, well, it is an act of nature. A virus has come across, and as a result, we've had a global pandemic. Well, the point here is there's no point in blaming the government, no point in blaming Boris. They've done the best they can do in the circumstances and situation they found themselves in. And I think in many respects, when we look back in years to come, they will account for quite a lot of survival of business. Yes, and I'm sorry, there are businesses out there that have found themselves cut short in this situation, that haven't actually been able to, survive as a result. And I understand that. But there is no excuses for us to be inactive. We can take accountability of where we are and strive to work our way through this, to, protect and maintain our businesses. It's kind of, there are people who are out there at the moment in denial that, we are where we are because of the crisis, because of COVID-19. And yes, they're right. But then those that have taken responsibility to actually maintain and drive my business forward, to make a decision that we're not going to just allow this to railroad us. We are going to, take the steps that we need to protect what it is that we're doing, to maintain our business continuity, to keep the business alive. For those businesses that have had to hibernate, where they've had the government support, right now, let's take the leisure industry. Right now, we're looking to July the 2nd in terms of what's that going to look like. Well, now is the time to start preempting. Now is the time to start taking responsibility, being accountable, and taking full ownership of what is it we're going to do next. So as we go through this afternoon, I want you really to focus on how it is that you want to get to the levels and the bounce back, and to get to the next step. I don't want you to think about why me, why has this happened to me? We're all in this together. And the fact of the matter is, if we focus on below the, what I would term as being below this line, below this parapet, below these, areas of responsibility in terms of blame, excuse, and denial, then we're just going to implode. We're just going to suffer, and we won't actually make the bounce back that we potentially could. We won't achieve our relaunch. So just really, I guess it's a bit of a preamble here. Let's focus on the results. Let's focus on relaunching your business. I do believe there is some value in just identifying the actual journey that we've had to get here, because there's been a huge amount of change. There's a lot of people at the moment that talk of, the next recession. There are a lot of people that are talking of, that the economy is going to, massively suffer. And I tend not to agree. What I do see is that, when we go back to March the 23rd, when this all started, that was our old normal. That's how we traditionally did business. And I guess for many of you, launching into 2020 was, a good year, that there was plans and aspirations and changes, and then that you had in mind. And then on the 23rd of March, everything changed. Now, understanding that, realizing that that's one of the challenges that we all faced. What we then had to do is determine, okay, so lockdown happened, and on the 23rd of March, everything changed. Then we experienced shock. There was a sense of, wow, okay, so the day before it was business as normal, and then now today you're telling me that I can't do business as normal, and I've now got to work from home, or I've got to shut my high street store, or I've got to close my hotel, bar, restaurant. And we saw, for many of you who would have either gone through this yourself or you've seen it through media, but there's an element of denial. There was an element of anger, and maybe even some that were feeling there was a level of collusion. All the while, I mean, 3 months has been a significant period of time. I know I've been working from my home office, as many of you have. So that time, many people got down to this rock bottom where it became really, really tough, and we've seen how that's manifested itself. You'll have had your own experiences in your own businesses. Now suddenly we start to see the easing of the lockdown. Now it's not going to be like a complete reverse of when they shut the door on lockdown and now they just open the door. We're now going to start seeing how do we start to get back to business in the new normal. And let's be really clear on this as well. Is it the new normal, or is it now just normal? I think the businesses that are really going to engage with this one don't see this as a short-term fix. They will see this as the new norm. There is a realization that what we now do is the way we will now go forward to do business. Business has changed, and it's probably changed forever. We may well have advanced a good 10 years in terms of some of the technology that we've now started to rely on and use over the next 3 months. And I think for many businesses, that's probably created a much, much higher level of resilience. The relaunching of our business. I'll touch on it a little later on, but just think when you first got into your business, how many times did you change and rechange again in order to actually meet the demands of your new marketplace, in order to meet the demands and learning that you needed to engage with in terms of what it is that you do in business? The fact of the matter is that when we start to look about this in terms of now easing the lockdown and now starting to relaunch into it, it's going to give us the drive to get to where we need to get to. And over the next coming weeks, you will start to thrive. Your business will start to, come back and grow again. Yesterday was the first day that we kind of allowed the high street to open again. And, we drove through our high street, and one of the things that we identified was there were queues outside banks, but there were lots of people in the town, all respecting the social distancing. But there was this sense of actually the new norm, that I can go into town, and whilst I may need a little bit more patience in terms of the shops that I need to go to, I may need to plan in advance of how I want to engage. I may need to queue to get into, the shops that I want to get into. It means that you still can. And what I want to share this afternoon is how you as a business owner, as you and your business can start to really have that level of impact. And that's going to be the significant shift. As I go through this afternoon, one of the things that you're going to probably need to, appreciate and accept is there is likely to be a learning agenda for you. There's likely to be a focus where you're going to need to actually do things differently yourself. You're going to need to, understand and learn new concepts, new ways of doing business. And if you can start to appreciate what that potentially looks like, then you can start to have a massive impact going forward. This is a great opportunity for you in your business. It's not one where you need to, have a sense of overwhelm, of peril, of fear, of anxiety, of worry. You've probably done and been through all of that as that curve went down into lockdown. Now, as we're starting to come out of it, we need to reverse that. So let's dive into these 9 steps for the next 40 minutes or so, where I'll just give you some insights as to the areas that you can focus on in order to actually get the very best out of, relaunching your business. So the first one is about re-education and preparing your business to actually now start to get back to the new normal, to get back to normal as it's now going to be seen. And the point here is, what is it that we need to prepare for? So we already understand that the buying process is likely to have changed quite significantly with regards to your business. You know, that it's not the same as it was before. We've got to apply a sense of common sense in terms of how we're going to go about doing our business. So when you look at this, have you right now walked through the process that you want your customers to go through? Have you actually taken your customer's journey in your business to really determine what it is that they need to do and how it is that they need to really engage with, you know, your team, and how your team engage with the customers? Because that's going to give you, well, you know, essentially a sense of what your customers are going to experience. And that's going to allow you to actually set a process in place, put the, if you will, the rules of the game of how people can engage, your customers, your clients, your partners, how they can engage with you. You know, I've been talking and working with a few estate agents, and they've got some great sets of rules in place now, which actually in many respects will probably impact positively on the buying process, where they'll go and have a viewing of a house and they'll meet the agent outside the house, and then the agent will step to one side and give them the keys or open the door, and then they'll be able to go in there. And they're able to have a look at this house on their own steam, following through, you know, the directions that are in the paperwork that they've been given. You know, what does it look like for you in your shop, in your wholesale, in your service, whatever it is you provide? You are going to think about, how do we visibly demonstrate this sense of social distancing? What screens do we need to put in place? What visible signage do we need to put in? And you know, we've seen plenty of that now. What do we need to do to make sure that we remain current with that as well? You know, we are talking that at some point in the next couple of weeks, the 2 meter spacing may go down to 1 meter spacing. How do we start to preempt that? What arrows and signage do we need to use? And just remember that when you start to look about this, when you start to, you know, see what it is that your customers are going to see, to actually put this system and plan in place, it needs to be one that gives your customers a sense of comfort. You know, it takes away any fear and anxiety they may have. It makes them feel comfortable that actually going to go in there, we're going to, you know, clean our hands. We're going to actually see that there is a process that, you know, we're going to see there are barriers, there are, you know, for payments. Payments are adapted in such a way that we don't need to have a cash transaction. And just go back to what I said in the preamble. You know, if you think about this, how many times did you go through this process when you first opened your business? How many iterations did you go through, and how many changes did you make? Just put that head on. Think about what it is you need to learn now in order to actually re-educate and be prepared to open up your doors. And even if you've opened your doors now, you know, think about what it is that we've got to monitor in order to make sure that it's having the desired effect. So let's take a look at step 2. So step 2 is about rebuilding the team. Now, this is quite an interesting context as well, because, you know, I know for many businesses, there's been a balance between having some of my team furloughed and having some of my team working from home, and a balance of the two, where we've had shift working almost, where some people have had the ability to work from home, and that's been, you know, that's been entirely productive. In other cases, it's been a bit challenging. You know, we've done a couple of webinars on lockdown leadership, the fact that leaderships and the dynamics of being a leader shifts during this process. You know, you had to shift how you led your team during this process, and understanding that you didn't have the human interaction and the normal, you know, visible prompts that you would get from human interaction. You had to rely on some short conversations on video or on telephone or email correspondence to get that level of engagement. So right now, what communication are you having with your team? What regular updates are you giving them in terms of what's happening at the moment and what's going to be expected of them? You know, for some of the businesses that have now come back into, you know, work and are now looking at the social media, or sorry, the social distancing, You know, what are you putting in place to maintain that level of comfort and assurances with your team, because they're going to be on the front line. You know, have you looked at the robust communications that you've got in place and how you can utilize those? How about you know, the flexibility in terms of hours? You know, there are many businesses out there that shifted their flexibility and realized actually we've got 24 hours in a day now. And because we now maybe can't see with the same volume of people in one aspect, well, maybe we shift our flexibility that, you know, we might go to an 18-hour day, and we have this structure where we're able to, you know, have you know, I guess a schedule where people can come in and come out. 24-hour manufacturing where we're putting shift work in place. The other side of this as well is, you know, what about your community in terms of your team community? How do you rebuild the community spirit? And you know, I think one of the sad things on this is along the way you might lose some of your people. You know, it may be that there are some people that sadly, you know, during this they may not wish to come back to work. You know, because the anxiety and the worry that this has potentially created. So that flexibility may mean that you're able to offer different terms and conditions. It may be that some of your team want to go to, you know, a part-time. And it's looking at what those opportunities look like and how you can manifest that in terms of keeping people on track. It might be that there is an expectation in terms of reduced productivity at first as well. And then as people come back in and they start to adjust to how they're going to function and what the team's going to do, then you can steadily build that level of productivity going forward. You don't necessarily, when you reopen the doors and start to bring people back in, that suddenly we're going to have a high levels of productivity. That might not be the case. Don't think, also think about the fact that, you know, where you've got, communal areas and you normally would have had a communal break. You know, at the moment, we can't pay lip service to this. You know, this is definitely a third-party awareness piece where, you know, if you've got elements that, you know, would play lip service to it, but you may have somebody that absolutely is, you know, worried about this. You've got to make sure that the rules of the game and the new protocols and standards are really, really clear and adhered to, leading by example in that respect. And it's going to take a little bit of time to actually, you know, start to regain this, and maybe even you might need to think about retraining in terms of actually some of the people when they come back, because you are going to, you know, change the way that you know, some of your engagement with your customers and with your team as a result. So looking at your team now and starting to rebuild your team, what is the plan of action that you've got to rebuild your team? But bearing in mind that the rules and the protocols that you need to demonstrate, and your team need to demonstrate them with your clients. So number three, when we go on to number three now really is about how do we start to engage with our client base. And these are really where we start to, you know, renew deals with deals of the day. Now this is where it gets really exciting. The point on this one is, one of the things is this is not a discount opportunity. I've already heard all of the tales where people have put, you know, customers have chanced their hand and, you know, can we have a discount? You know, you can't sell anything, we're on lockdown. And actually the opposite has been the case. No, we have been able to do business. We're coming back now as an opportunity to put some deals in place. What deals can you put in? And here's the thing, who's the top 20% of your customers right now that generate maybe 80% of your revenue? Make them feel special. You could even put some VIP deals together. You know, a special, you know, pre-launch or pre-relaunch deal to your VIP clients. You know, have a think about, you know, what it is that you could do. You know, this is where you can really put some differentiation in terms of what it is you're doing in your business. Hey, and why not have a look at the NHS and, you know, first responders? You know, they of all of us, and during this lockdown period, you know, they have been tested. You know, you may be able to create some great, potential deals for those first responders that you know can really be, you know, very, very exciting and build some lifelong new clients for you. And it's a nice thing to be able to give back, and it may be that there's something that you're able to offer, those first responders, the NHS workers, and the like. And I suppose the other side of you, just think about your existing customers. Think like them. What sort of things was going to bring them out from their, from lockdown to encourage them back into the business, whether it's a retail or whether it's service. People will be hesitant. Some of your clients will be hesitant to take that step. So what is it that you can do to encourage them? Or what is it you can do to, again, to bring your business to them? There is a reality that some of your clients are going to be in shock still. They're going to be in hiding. They're still going to be in that place where they're in denial. Be that partner, be that, provider for them that actually encourages them out of that to really get into this. There's also a notion that actually there was some really fantastic stuff that happened during lockdown, and don't lose that. Maximize that going forward, where you made the pivots, where you increased your communications, where you had a regular communications and maybe interaction with your customers. Just make sure you maintain that focus going forward. And regardless of social distancing, make sure everybody understands that your prospects, your customer base, they understand that actually we are going to be doing the very best we can to keep going and making sure that we're providing that A-star service. So come and try us out, and put a demand on your customer to come out. Really encourage them to come and experience the way that you've changed your service, the way that you've adapted. And interestingly, again, that conversation, there is so much that you can do about getting these deals out there, getting that building that excitement in your marketplace. But don't wait for your competition to do this. Get on board with it now. Stop doing or start doing this right now so that you can really have a significant impact. And have some variety as well. You can have a deal each week. There can be something that you have. You'll know what that potentially looks like. But maintain that real focus with regards to really exciting and offering some real focus with regards to bringing it back in. It gives you something to shout about when we start looking at this one. Which leads me on really to the next one. And this really is about standing above the treetops and announcing the fact that you are reopening. One of the real things on this one is over the lockdown period, for many businesses, there's been opportunity to actually get out there and do your marketing, to actually do things that you weren't doing before, to engage and enter into the digital marketing space. So what can you do to actually build that excitement that you are reopening? What can you do to really start to engage your client base that actually look at us, we're about to come and open. It might be signs, let's be fair. How do you make your location stand out? If you've got a shop front, can you put ribbons up? Can you put banners up? If you've got an office, can you really announce that whole focus that we are coming back to work? If you're an office-based business and your team is starting to come back, do it for the team. What a great opportunity right now to refresh the office, to encourage them to come back and excite them when they arrive. What about local radio, news feeds, doing live social media? If you go back to step 3 when we talked about the deals, actually announce every single deal that you're doing. Announce it on social media. Announce it on your website. Announce it on a landing page. Share it with your database. Ask your raving fans to go and share it as well. And actually, if you even think about this as part of a marketing strategy going forward, what list of announcements could you create in terms of going forward? If you start to think over the next, let's put it this way, over the next 90 days, What are the key announcements that you know that you can go and make and go and you know, start to encourage, you know, because you can already preempt some of the aspects that are going to come on. You know, what about the first time you're able to have you know, a social gathering, and you know, will happen. How long we've got to wait, we'll see. But if you think about New Zealand, that, you know, they've gone back to probably they've just gone back. You know, they've had rugby matches on, and you know, people are now allowed. There's no limitations on social distancing and like. And there will be a point where we'll get back to that. But if you start looking at preempting it, right? What's the setup? But interesting that, you know, when we look to the next step, what is the celebration of that? What do we do to celebrate the fact that we are coming back? Kind of like links in for, you know, make the announcement that actually you're going to have a big ribbon cutting ceremony to reopen. You know, you might think that sounds a bit strange, but if you're the one business that you know, is actually doing a big ribbon cutting, and you're inviting all of your VIP customers, and you're inviting them to bring somebody along with them, and you're announcing it on social media, you know, you're building a bit of excitement about it, then actually what you're going to do is you're going to encourage people to take notice. You're going to stand out. You know, what about PR? Here's an interesting one for you. There are a lot of businesses that have got bounce back loans, and a lot of the businesses that have got bounce back loans are really there as a debt security, just in case. And I totally understand that. You know, there is definitely a sense that just in case something happens, and I've got this, and you know, if I don't need it, I don't need it. But there's a real significant opportunity here that, you know, we've got this cheap investment into your business, and one of the easiest ways to grow your business is by using somebody else's money. So suddenly you've got a bounce back loan, you've got the ability to now get some PR into the business, you've got something that you're going to celebrate in terms of reopening, celebrating surviving for that matter. You know, celebrate your team, your customers, your community. You know, you can make something incredibly newsworthy here, but actually you can invest in that. Now, is that good marketing? If suddenly you're out there in the marketplace and people are starting to recognize the fact that you're celebrating actually coming back to business, you know, could that generate, you know, leads for your business? Could it be something that could have a significant impact? You know, it's worth looking at it. That if you've got this you know, investment in your business, and by the way, if you haven't done the bounce back loan, then do seriously think about it. You know, I think it's going to be a long time before you get money as cheap as this again. So if that money is there for you to actually be able to develop and to engage, then you got to think about it. Think about actually getting the, you know, a really good return on investment through it. So what celebration could you run? What PR could you do to really support that? Definitely worth looking at. So let's move on to step 5, and step 5 is you know, this is a really key one when we do start to look at, you know, these bounce back loans, when we do start to look at the finances that we have got available. So step 5 is rerun your numbers. Now, for those of you that are on the call and those of you that went through the crisis plan with me 3 months ago, one of the things that we really focused on there was we need a cash flow forecast. We need to have some clarity in terms of what the next 90 days look like. We need to have clarity in terms of where our expenses are both our fixed and our variable costs. We need to have clarity in terms of what business we know is coming through. And we want to have a look in terms of the future and some blue sky thinking and what business we want to generate. You know, and that was one of the challenges where we then started, you know, about the pivot. So the point here now is, you know, firstly, do your numbers stack up in terms of reopening? You know, when you start to think about, right, you know, do I bring the whole team back in one hit? And when we reopen, expect that I'm going to go back to, you know, my business numbers that they were 13 weeks ago? Or do I need to actually play the numbers out here with some meaningful insights to what I feel the numbers are going to look and what we're going to need to make and what it's going to cost us in terms of actually, you know, bringing the business back? Because the last thing you want to do is waste any money that you've got. I call it, you know, paying dumb tax. You know, you don't want to be paying dumb tax with regards to actually, you know, investing in the business to reopen, but then not really having done any structured valuation in terms of what's it forecasting look like, what's the cash flow forecasting look like. And this is modeling your business against maybe a worst case scenario and the best case scenario, and maybe finding that middle ground is where we can sit comfortably. But we absolutely need to rerun these. We need to make sure that we've got utter clarity in what this looks like going forward. There's no point at all in just diving back into a reopen because they've just said, high streets can reopen again. We need to make sure the numbers stack up. Identifying your break-even point. So looking over the next, days and weeks ahead in terms of what it is that you're going to need to target in order to make sure that you're able to break even. And that break even can then start to shift, as maybe some of the relief that you've had in terms of maybe rates and other elements and payments and pay breaks that you've had, you're going to need to start thinking about how do we start to re-engage in those. It might be that your suppliers have given you reduced rates or, a reduction. How do we either, go back and start to build that into the equation? And let's not forget, whilst HMRC have been incredible in terms of supporting this, we need to make sure that we are looking at how we accrue that money. Just to share an idea, and one of the things that we do in our business is that we make sure that we have a tax account. So our VAT doesn't go into our account, it goes into the VAT account. But actually that accrues a lot more value in there. And it means that when we come to pay our VAT or corporation tax, that we have a resource to do that. We're not having to find the money. So starting to look in that respect. And then just using this money as wisely as possible. Don't spend it, invest it. Look at opportunities in where you can actually invest your money in the business going forward. What is it that you can invest in? Where are there areas that actually, if I put money into this, then I'm going to get more money back out of it? And always remember that during this transitionary period is to make sure that, you still keep that cash on hand. Don't leave yourself short in any way, shape or form. But by the same token, don't just have money sitting there doing nothing. It's a tool and you need to make it work for you. Which links quite nicely into step number 7. And step number 7 is about rethinking our marketing and the sales. And there is, some real clear focus here with regards to actually how we can start to start looking at how we can run the numbers and move forward. Our marketing has been, I guess, tested over the last 13 weeks, where you've had to maybe shift how your marketing message is perceived out there. What is the marketing message that you want to be portraying out there? How's that marketing looking? What is it that and who it is that you need to engage with? Did you make a significant pivot which actually has opened up a new avenue? And as such, do we need to have a focus in terms of what our marketing looks like in this new avenue? The marketing side of life is really now, again, it's what's our marketing plan? What is our plan of action to actually go out there? What's the message that we want to be sharing? And if interesting, when you go back through these 6 steps, or sorry, these 9 steps, you look at, the reopening announcements, the celebration, the new deals, this is where it's going to give you the content in terms of what's the new marketing message going forward. And do remember, that there is still going to be fear and anxiety out there. So that marketing message needs to be compassionate. And this links really into the sales process, selling with compassion, but selling nonetheless. I do struggle with the fact that there are businesses out there that are up in arms, that they are approached by other businesses, or consumers are approached by opportunities in businesses in order to make purchases and to grow. Let's remember, we're in business. Don't we have an obligation to maintain our focus in that respect, to actually make sure that we are delivering what it is that we do in business to the very, very best of our ability. It's not good enough just to to stop doing any of this stuff because we've upset a few people, or a few people are a little bit more vociferous in their views and thoughts of selling in lockdown. Now, I'm not discussing and talking about people that have potentially profiteered during lockdown. I sense that those people will have a lot of challenge going forward with regards to actually sustaining their business model. No, I'm talking about actually making sure that your marketing message is really clear in terms of what it is you're doing right now and how you can, really, resonate in the marketplace, and then having a sales process that is really focused on, selling with compassion. These are some of the key areas. Add to that when we start thinking about, the mediums that we use for marketing and sales over the last 13 weeks. I should imagine that you've all, in some respect or another, been very engaged with social media. I guess been engaged with digital, your digital platforms, websites, videos. Interestingly, how many of you have maybe done an interview with, your client base, or had a testimonial from your client base during this period? One of the things that we've done with many of our clients is actually the lockdown testimonial, where we've asked them how they felt the support has been during this process and how they've strove to get through it. Think just, really outside of the box with regards to your marketing. Number 8 is a really interesting one, and it's really showing gratitude. And a level of gratitude to everybody who's out there. Clearly, you want to be showing gratitude to your customers and your team. Send them a handwritten note. And just think for a moment, when was the last time you received a handwritten note, from someone you do business with? It says, thank you very much. Send them a note that just it says thanks. And recognize something that they may have done. Thank your suppliers. How many of you have maybe had so much support from your bankers or your accountants? Wouldn't it be gracious to just recognize that? How many people are going to send a thank you note to their mortgage providers because they've given them a 3-month mortgage break? If you think of it in this respect, it's kind of like this giver's gain. It's reciprocity. I think thanking people at this time is that there has absolutely been some significant shift in everything we've been doing in business. We live in a new world where there are new opportunities and new ways of doing business. And I think actually, recognizing that is a good thing to do. And not just because it's this notion of, if I do it, I'll get something back. That's not what I'm saying. But go out there and actually, make a thank you. Thank the NHS workers. If you think about the 8 o'clock, cheer for our NHS workers on a Thursday that we were doing. Now, what a great recognition. When you think about it, what can you do to actually, as a business, publicly stand out there and just put a thank you? Could you write a thank you letter and put it in your local paper, and just thank various people for all of the support that they've given? It's very easy to fall into this mire which we see at the moment on the media with regards to people taking slices out of the government, and we're now even, it shocks me that we're now even looking at how, when this is all said and done, actually what's the level of accountability going to be? What's the the level of investigations that's going to go into doing this better? I mean, they're even talking about if we'd have closed 10 days or gone into lockdown 10 days earlier, they suggest that 20,000 people might not have died. Well, do you know what? We'll never know. We'll never know. The fact of the matter is that I think at these various levels and degrees, everyone's done the best that they can, and with the best intentions they can. So why not thank them? Pass the thanks on. I think that's a really important one. Number 9 is really about making sure that we are setting a focus to go forward. And it's what is the plan of action? What plan do you need to write up and put into place in order to get from where we are now to that next step, to get your business back onto track? You can, with the desire, really have a focus with regards to driving this business forward and actually having this as the best year that you could plan for. If you came into 2020 with a particular process and thought in terms of actually this is where we want to get to, what's to say that you can't close the year still on track for that? But you need to have a thought process and a written plan of action in place. So when we start to look at this, and just before we close this particular one, it's kind of, where are we now? And in many respects, we're in this warming up area where we're just looking at the ability to start to structure the plan of action going first. We're starting to think about our team coming back to the business place, to go back into their place of work. We're looking at how we can ramp up our marketing. We're looking at the differentiation and maximizing maybe some of the stuff that we did through lockdown itself. But all of these things need to be synthesized and put onto paper. I can't stress this enough, actually. There's a reason why I think at the beginning of this we did in the region of 130 odd crisis management plans with various businesses, and all pro bono, all free of charge. But we recognized, for me personally as a high performance business coach, I have an obligation to try and help as many people through this as I possibly could. And that was my gift. My gift now is, how do we now get through this to the other end? How do we actually make sure that we're getting through and beyond? So what does the next 90 days look like for you? What is the game in terms of how you structure your plan to survive? What is the reopening in terms of how are we going to structure that going forward? How are we going to structure bringing the team back? How are we going to structure, the social media? Everything we've talked about, those 9 steps. What is our plan of action? And do think about the consequences as well. If things turned around. I always talked about, for my military days, what are the courses of actions that we need to think about? What's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? And what is it that sits in the middle that we can actually live with? Now, these are some of the areas that we really need to focus on. So we just have a quick look here in terms of the 9 steps that we've talked about. Re-educate and prepare. Think right now, what is it that I need to maybe re-educate myself in terms of this transition into the, to reopening, to relaunching the business? What do I need to prepare for? How can I rebuild my team and bring the cohesion of my team back together again? What communication do I need to give? What level of focus do I need to offer them? What are the new deals that I can do that are going to really encourage and challenge my clients and prospects to come out and start to do business again, to really get out there? Because if we all have a focus on doing this, actually we're not going to go into a recession at all. I think in many respects what we're going to be entering into, and what I believe we are entering into, is actually we are entering into an economic transformation. We're entering into a new era, and we're bringing this new era in some considerable time ahead of when maybe we would have expected it to come in. But what does that look like? Getting those reopening announcements out there, getting ready for the celebrations, diving into your numbers, and again, not putting your head in the sand, but being really clear in terms of what your cash flow forecast looks like. Where is our break even? How am I managing this cash gap? Then think about the marketing. What marketing message needs to go out there? How do I sell with compassion? How do I combine and transition from a marketing to the sales process? And how do I get really clear that I can actually sell my way through this and through and beyond, to actually getting back to being, business on the journey that I stepped out to be on when we started this? And actually, indeed, some businesses I know have done better through this, just because they were able to pivot swiftly enough and look at where the opportunities were. As if we go back 3 months, where the opportunities were to sell toilet paper. as daft as that sounds, there's a very real message there. Be gracious and thank everyone. And then the final piece is getting this written plan done. Now, I hope that that's generally been, I've seen some messages come through. So, thank you very much for your kind words. The aim here is that this is useful for you. The point is going forward that, if you're ready to invest in your business, I'm absolutely ready to invest some time in you. And I'm, for at least the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're still going to be keeping our pro bono sessions running. So if you're interested in picking up the conversation on what we've talked about today, if you're interested in having a coaching session on that, then I'm absolutely prepared to put some time aside to help you through that. And it may just be brainstorming. It could be a bona fide coaching session. The other thing, on the 24th of June next week at 4 o'clock, I'm running a session with a guy called Jonathan McDonald. Look him up online. He's a really clever guy. He's a futurist. He's worked with IKEA, Lego, Google. He's a very, very clever guy. But he's got there's a great webinar that we're doing next week on the 7 mindsets needed to create the most powerful business models. And he really will challenge your ability in the marketplace to differentiate and start to think differently about how you shape your business going forward. So you are more than welcome to jump onto that one. Please do jump on to the link, and if it's okay with everyone, what we'll do is we'll pop it up onto Facebook, and I'll drop it as an email to you, or email me directly, and we'll send you the link. But jump onto that one. You're going to get a real commitment and focus out of actually where our business can go and what we can start to look at going forward. I think review some of what you've looked at this afternoon, and have a think about what are the 3 top actions that we need to start thinking about to jump and go forward. What are they that I need to do right now, and the ones that you need to do right now are the ones that you need to focus on and putting them in, and they're probably going to be the ones that the BFOs in that respect. I think it's fair to say that now is about getting ready to relaunch your business. There is absolutely no point in sitting back and just waiting until a time to see what happens. Now you've got to get into this focus of relaunching your business. Now you've got to get out there and really put these 9 steps into play. Make a difference. I truly, for everything and the challenge that we've been through as a country, but where we are right now today, I am really excited with the prospect of going forward. I'm really excited with the fact that I don't feel we're entering into recession. We are absolutely entering into an economic transformation. I'm really excited with the fact that there has been such a shift in business and business technology that we're actually now moving to a whole new level. But as business owners, we've got an absolute obligation. Indeed, it's our duty to go out there and make sure that our businesses thrive. There is so much money that is out there slushing around in business now. Don't have it as a debt just in case fund. Use that money wisely. Invest part of it into your business. Develop the strategies going forward. And really get out there and relaunch so that the rest of this year can be a massive growth for you. And I think it really can. Just think back over lockdown. We have seen some fantastic stuff in business. I've seen that firsthand. Hey, look, my name's Steve Gaskell. You've got my details. You can hook up with me on LinkedIn, social media. Drop me an email directly at stevegaskell@actioncoach.com. I will be more than happy to give you a couple of hours of my time if you're willing to invest in yours. Other than that, thank you for attending this afternoon. I truly hope it's been a useful presentation for you. Keep an eye out and do join me next week with Jonathan McDonald. That really will prove to be a fantastic session. So until then, thanks very much, and have a fantastic